High-intensity interval training does not burn fat. And in this video, I'm going to explain what high-intensity interval training does and why you're stuck spinning your wheels in a low-carb diet trying HIIT training. So my name's Adam Bono. I'm an online fat loss professional, and I specialize in hormonal priming, body recomposition, and higher-level forms of nutrition through metabolism manipulation. So I currently work with 87 guys around the world, getting them to the leanest body fat percentage they've ever been, using actual data, KPI, metrics, and science of nutrition. So in this video, I want to explain exactly what substrates of energy that HIIT training actually burns and why you're kind of stuck spinning your wheels. And then I'm going to explain to you what is the best form of cardio for burning fat. So stick around to the end of this video because I'm going to explain in detail what you need to be doing. So high intensity interval training, right, known as HIIT, is a zone 4 cardio, which is a certain percentage of your VO2 max. And the higher the substrates of cardio that you do, the more substrate of carbohydrates you burn. So some of the guys who come to me who've been trying HIIT training, one, they are stuck spinning their wheels and they are visually losing muscle mass. They go on the end bodies, they take a look, and they're actually losing muscle mass, which actually makes them look worse, like visually, and they're not really tracking exactly how they look. Because at the end of the day, if you've made, immense amount of progress doing HIIT training, if you lost a considerable amount of weight because weight was your overall goal, kudos to you. This video isn't for you. But this is for the people that want to get to a leaner body fat percentage, gain muscle tissue, preserve muscle tissue, and have a better body composition, right? And so if you lost a bunch of weight doing HIIT cardio and it was sustainable, go on and watch somebody else's channel. But if you've gained it all back and you're wondering why, I'm going to explain to you why. So most of the guys who do HIIT training, they start to cut their carbohydrates because people think that cutting carbohydrates is the answer to your fat loss goals. Well, HIIT training actually burns carbohydrates as a substrate of energy. So the more intense your workouts are, the more intense the zones of cardio are, the more carbohydrates you burn as fuel. It's the most active form of energy in the body. So let's say that you are doing a high intensity interval training at a zone 4 cardio, which primarily burns carbohydrates, but there's a lack of carbohydrates actually at play. What happens then? So the body will actually turn into gluconeogenesis. Will then start to break down protein as fuel. And some of you people are probably watching this like, well, what about keto? What about ketones? What about actually using energy of ketosis? So ketosis only works if you're under a certain amount of carbohydrates per day. And if you're not currently tracking how much you're eating, but you're just restricting carbohydrates and doing HIIT training, you need carbohydrates if you're going to do HIIT training. If you're doing HIIT training and you're adding carbohydrates, because what carbohydrates are is they're a performance enhancer. They fuel your body with glycogen, they fill your muscles up, they make you preserve muscle because they're extremely protein sparing, and they help with performance in general. So these HIIT training workouts you guys are doing and you're losing muscle tissue, you feel like you're not making much progress visually, and then you go and step on an end body or a scale and maybe you're down in weight, but visually you look worse because you've gotten skinny fat from burning like actual muscle tissue down. There's a better way to do it. But like with this HIIT training workouts, it's the point where like you need the correct amount of carbohydrates, right? It's not about just restricting one certain macromolecule. You need to know how much you're eating, because at the end of the day, you can't run from the law of thermodynamics, which is calories in versus calories out. And that's true until you get into a metabolic corner point and kind of a metabolic traffic jam when you get super low in calories. But you have to also understand that high intensity training and the higher the zones of cardio that you do, you start to produce more lactate. You start to induce more inflammation. And once the inflammation in the body starts to accrue, one, it's very hard for the body to want to burn fat. So think about inflammation as cellular activity within the body. So inflammation, adrenal fatigue, oxidative stress, it's all forms of actual cellular activity in the body. If the body is like focused on solving the problem of adrenal fatigue, stress, cortisol, it's no longer actually utilizing cellular activity for the mobilization of body fat and for the oxidation of body fat. So you're producing a lot of lactate within your body doing high-intensity interval training. You're not getting enough carbohydrates in, and your body's becoming extremely inflamed, which is making it even harder for you to lose body fat. Because if your body is very stressed, if cortisol levels are very high, your body will no longer allow you to lose body fat, because cortisol in the body is one thing that you have to mitigate when you're trying to get to a leaner physique, trying to get to a better body fat composition. And you need to know that, like, one, carbohydrates are the mechanism to reduce adrenal fatigue, to reduce cortisol levels, to reduce inflammation. So restricting yourself from carbohydrates, doing high-intensity interval training, you're putting your body in a state of constant distress. And where I see even more people go wrong with HIIT cardio is that, one, they restrict themselves highly from calories. They might not even know exactly how much protein, carbohydrates, fats they even are eating, but they're just restricting carbohydrates. And then your post-workout, one thing that skyrockets when you are doing high-intensity interval training for the rest of your day is ghrelin, the hunger hormone. So the higher intensity cardio you do, the more subject you are for having hunger pains, which then leads people to highly undereat, do HIIT cardio training, afterwards get super hungry, and it's just not sustainable. And that's why you overeat, and your body is adapted to doing low amounts of calories in the form of metabolic adaptation, which means that your body has adapted to eating low calories, so now your metabolism is lower, and now what happens? You're hungry, you're fatigued, your body needs carbohydrates, and as soon as you eat a little bit of those carbohydrates, one, you blow up, you gain a lot of water retention, and now you're just unable to actually satiate yourself, because leptin, the actual satiety hormone, is down as well. So when you're putting yourself in a position when you're doing this HIIT training and you're eating low amounts of carbohydrates, you're putting yourself in a worse position. And if you are tracking your carbohydrates and you're eating a good amount of carbohydrates to fuel your HIIT training for performance, and you're still in a calorie deficit and you're losing weight, like, by all means, you guys are fine. But there's a strict problem with people in today's society thinking that HIIT training is this answer all to be all, that it burns more calories faster, but you kind of put yourself in a corner with all of the rest of your hormones for actually longevity and sustainability. So, what is the right way to lose fat? Like, what burns more fat? Walking. Lower the intensity of cardio you do, the more substrate of fat your body burns. Your body wants to stick to an energy source that is more slower burning. So, for instance, like, walking burns 40% more substrate of fat. 40% more substrate of fat at a zone 1 cardio. Yes, it takes a little bit longer, right? Instead of that 20-minute HIIT training, maybe you go for a 40-minute walk, but the benefits are incredible. One, walking is, you can do anywhere. It's a very low barrier to entry form of cardio. Secondly, walking actually reduces lactate. It reduces lactate and reduces inflammation, gets your blood flowing. It's a form of low-intensity cardio that's non-inflammatory. And walking in general doesn't make you hungry after you do it, because it's burning more slowly. And so, like, with walking pairing with actual strength training, if you're wanting to get to six-pack lean, you want to get a very low body fat percentage, but you're wanting to know what the best form of cardio to do, the first thing you need to do is you need to make sure you're strength training, you need to make sure you're in a deficit, right? Those are the two biggest things that matter, right? Strength training and keeping muscle tissue is most important, because if you start to lose muscle tissue, then you're putting yourself in a worse position health-wise. So there's even a study done that says it's worse to lose muscle tissue than it is to lose body fat. Now, it's for the people who's 200, 300 pounds overweight. We could probably argue about that. But for most of my guys I work with want to get lean, want to get shredded, want to get six-pack shredded and look good. And, walking is the best way to do that, pairing that with strength training, because walking is a form of fat oxidation. So fat loss occurs in two separate ways: fat mobilization and fat oxidation, right? So you have to induce some sort of epinephrine and adrenaline with fat mobilization, to get the triglycerides to break free from the fat molecules into the bloodstream to later on be oxidized. And so epinephrine and adrenaline is the actual stimulus to do that. So yes, like HIIT training would be a form of epinephrine and adrenaline to mobilize body fat, but if you're putting yourself in a position where, one, you aren't eating enough carbohydrates to reduce a bunch of this inflammation and you're getting super hungry afterwards, then what's the point, right? You're putting yourself in a worse position longevity rather than just taking it slow and doing something that's non-inflammatory, easy to do, and maybe it just takes 20 minutes longer. People are so subconsciously, stuck on wanting fast results in their fitness life that they fail to see the bigger picture, that 30% of the people that lose 20 pounds actually keep it off. And even 15% of people actually keep it off for 3 years. And this is the reason why. People don't understand how to sustainably get body fat off. So strength training is most important, obviously, because we know that we want to maintain muscle tissue. Deficit, that's second most important. Cardio, walking, best form of cardio that you can possibly do. And the next, which is going to be the most important for body composition and how you look, macronutrients. You can't just be tracking calories and look a certain way. If you want to look sharp, you want to look defined, have great insertions within your abs, you need to be tracking macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats, because each one has a specific role in the human body. Protein has a higher thermic effect. 30% of your actual protein you eat gets broken in the calorie conversion digestion process, but it will conserve muscle tissue, right? Fats will help with a cascade of hormones like T3, T4, metabolism, thyroid, testosterone. And so having fat in your diet, the correct amount, because a lot of the guys I come across are way above the normal fat intake that they should be at for their specific height and weight. And that causes a lot of bloating issues and a lot of issues with digestion and the gut, the inflamed gut. So having that correct fat intake is super important. And then the correct carbohydrate intake so that your body's recovering, you are having actual performance for your gym sessions to maintain muscle tissue, and you're getting carbohydrates in your diet for protein as well, because carbohydrates are protein sparing. And so they're in accordance with the three, there's a synergistic effect that happens in how you look. So calories are how you lose weight, right? You eat too many calories, you gain weight. Eat too less of calories, you lose weight, right? But losing weight's not always the goal. How you look is the goal. And what that is macronutrients. Macronutrients is how you look. And then micronutrients, types of food, is how you feel. So, all in all, quit the low carb, high intensity interval training, stick to a certain amount of steps per day, start at 8 and work up to 10, stick to 5 days of strength training, and be consistent and stay along for the ride. Don't expect results in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because those aren't sustainable. You want to put yourself in a position for longevity, not a quick fix to a lifelong solution that a lifelong problem that you've caused. Fat gain occurs over the course of a lifetime. You've probably spent the last 10, 15 years gaining this fat. It's not going to come off in a month, and you can't get it off in a month healthy. If you want to get back to that body that you had in college and that body you had maybe in high school, you need to do it right, and you need to learn the process along the way and understand the lifestyle change and the habits that are going to keep you there. Because these fast-acting diets, anybody out there, any moron out there, can starve themselves, eat low amounts of calories, and go to HIIT training 5 days a week. But you need to actually understand how much you're eating. You need to understand nutrition in general to make the lifestyle change, to make it consistent, and to make it a routine that no longer feels like a chore. And that's what's going to make the difference. So I appreciate you watching today's video. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.